Night falls in New York City. Golden lights stretch along Fifth Avenue, reflecting off the polished glass of a bustling five-star restaurant. The soft clinking of silverware, the hum of conversation, and the aroma of expensive red wine fill the air, all creating a lavish atmosphere that seems to leave no room for surprises. Among the servers, a black man quietly weaves through the tables. His name is Marcus Green, 32 years old, with a calm face and a composed demeanor. To the guests, he is just a waiter, but to himself, he knows this is only a temporary disguise hiding another version of who he truly is. That night, as Marcus brought menus to a group of Korean guests, the atmosphere suddenly shifted. One older gentleman frowned and tried to speak with the main server. But the attempt quickly hit a wall of language. Frustration flickered in their expressions, and the risk of losing high-profile customers began to loom. That was when Marcus stepped in. He leaned in and spoke gently, in flawless Korean, so accurate and fluid that it brought the whole table to silence. Not only did he help them place their orders, but he also subtly corrected a phrase that could have easily led to a misunderstanding. One of those small linguistic nuances that can turn hospitality into offense in another culture. For a few brief seconds, the entire room seemed to freeze. A waiter, speaking Korean like a native, from across the room, a woman had been watching closely. It was Olivia Bennett, a powerful billionaire and the owner of the restaurant chain, who happened to be dining there that evening. She set down her wine glass, her eyes lighting up with a mix of surprise and intrigue. And then, in that elegant space, a question seemed to hang in the air. Why does a waiter speak Korean so fluently? Who is he really? Marcus Green was no ordinary waiter. He had once been a standout student at UCLA, graduating with a prestigious degree in international relations, one that many could only dream of. Marcus was fluent in 5 languages: English, Spanish, Korean, Japanese, and Arabic. For him, languages were not just tools, but bridges to understand cultures, connect people, and nourish his dream of becoming a diplomat. But life did not let Marcus follow the path he wanted. He was born into a poor family in the Bronx. His father died early, and his mother was chronically ill, constantly in need of medication. After graduation, instead of stepping into glamorous international conferences, Marcus had to don a server's uniform and carried trays in a restaurant to pay hospital bills. He had applied many times for a position in the corporation's international relations department, where he believed his skills could truly shine. Yet every single time, his applications were rejected with vague and unreasonable excuses. Not enough experience. Does not fit company culture. Meanwhile, those roles went to familiar faces, people with fewer language skills and less expertise. Worse yet, Marcus had to endure constant disdain from his direct supervisor, Mr. Harris, the restaurant manager. Harris always saw Marcus as someone who only belonged behind a serving tray. Every time Marcus's language skills accidentally surfaced, Harris would mock him in front of colleagues. "You think you're some kind of diplomat? This is a restaurant, not the United Nations." Those words were like quiet knives, cutting deep into Marcus. He stayed silent, enduring it all, continuing his work. But in his eyes, there was always a lingering sorrow, a pain that came from talent buried in dreams imprisoned by injustice. And it was that very irony that made viewers ask the question, how many other people like Marcus are out there, living in the shadows of uniforms that do not belong to them? 1 week later, an opportunity, or rather, a challenge, suddenly appeared. The restaurant received a notice. An investment delegation from Japan and the Middle East would be coming in for a formal dinner and business talks. This was an event that could determine tens of millions of dollars in deals. And everything had to be absolutely perfect. But then, problems emerged. The translated documents and menus were filled with serious errors. In the Japanese version, a single incorrect character had turned the phrase "signature dish" into "cheap food." In the Arabic translation, a sentence had unintentionally omitted a religious nuance, something that, if overlooked, could be seen as a deeply offensive insult. Manager Harris was panicking, and the main interpreter was at a loss, unsure how to fix the mess. Everyone was gripped with fear at the thought of embarrassing the company in front of international guests. While the others were arguing, Marcus quietly picked up the folder. His eyes were focused, his hands swift as he marked corrections in red pen, adjusting every detail. He was not just editing words, he was explaining as he worked why that specific Japanese term could not be used in a formal context, how a single punctuation mark in Arabic could change the tone of an entire sentence. Everyone stood frozen, watching Marcus move with calm precision and confidence. He was like a conductor leading a symphony of languages, translating, connecting, and maintaining cultural sensitivity all at once. Upstairs, in the second-floor office, Olivia Bennett was secretly watching the security feed. Every word Marcus corrected, every explanation he gave, only deepened her astonishment. It was now clear, what stood before Olivia was no longer a waiter. It was a diplomat trapped inside a server's uniform. After that event, Olivia could no longer stay silent. She summoned Marcus to her private office, a place typically reserved for high-level executives only. Golden light reflected off the luxurious glass walls. Olivia stood with her arms crossed, looking straight at Marcus. Then she asked a simple but pointed question. "Where did you learn Korean and Japanese too?" Marcus paused. This was not the first time someone had asked about his language skills, but it was the first time the question came with genuine seriousness. He took a deep breath and told the truth. He had graduated from UCLA with a degree in international relations. He once wrote a research thesis on culinary diplomacy, a work that received praise in academic circles. His dream had always been to work in international organizations, connecting people through food and language, but every door had remained shut. "I applied to the international relations department of this company so many times, but I never received a positive response. I started to think maybe my dream was too extravagant for someone like me." Marcus's voice dropped, heavy with disappointment. Olivia did not buy it. She ordered her team to investigate, and soon, the truth came to light. Marcus had submitted his application 14 times, but each one had been stalled or rejected by Harris and Mr. Stone, the head of human resources. The reasons were absurd, not the right demeanor, lacking practical experience. Meanwhile, they were hiring underqualified candidates with fewer language skills, people chosen for their connections rather than competence. Olivia sat silently for a few seconds. She was no stranger to the ruthless world of business, but she had not expected such corruption within her own system, where a brilliant talent had been buried by dirty hands. She turned to Marcus. "Do you have the courage to prove you deserve it?" Marcus looked up. The years of pain in his eyes had transformed into something else. Determination. Olivia continued. "Next week, I need an international coordinator for an upcoming conference. I want it to be you. But remember, if you fail, you will not only lose this opportunity, you will also lose your job as a waiter." On the day of the conference, the atmosphere in the grand hall of the restaurant was so tense it felt like the air could snap. There were tailored suits, glamorous evening gowns, and contracts worth tens of millions of dollars tucked neatly inside polished leather briefcases. Into that scene walked Marcus, but this time, he was not wearing a waiter's uniform. He wore a sharp suit, a perfectly knotted tie, and carried himself with steady confidence. If no one had said a word, it would have been hard to believe that just 1 week earlier, he had been quietly carrying trays of wine. Olivia introduced him to the entire delegation. "This is Marcus Green, our international coordinator." Marcus began his work. He greeted the Japanese delegates in their language, spoke warmly with the Arab group in their native tongue, then shifted seamlessly into Spanish as he welcomed the South American business team. It was not just the languages, it was the way he made each group feel respected, understood. The heavy atmosphere quickly softened into something more personal, more connected. But in a corner of the room, two faces were tied with tension. Harris and Stone, the ones who had buried Marcus's applications, were seething. They could not let him shine, and they had prepared a trap, a mistranslation so subtle, it could cause Marcus to stumble right in front of everyone. When the document was handed to Marcus, he scanned it for a few seconds. His brow furrowed slightly. Right away, he spotted the issue, an Arabic phrase that, if read literally, would twist a respectful greeting into a crude and mocking insult. Marcus smiled calmly, in front of dozens of high-profile guests. He did not read the line as written. Instead, he adjusted it on the spot and added a graceful explanation. In your culture, this phrase is typically used among close friends. For such a significant occasion, I would like to rephrase it to show the fullest respect. The Arab delegation burst into laughter and nodded with approval. The moment was saved, and in that moment, Marcus did not just fix a translation. He saved a deal worth tens of millions of dollars. Olivia stood up and began clapping. She immediately presented evidence gathered by the internal audit team, emails, invoices, and records showing that Harrison Stone had taken bribes, funneling the translation contract to a company owned by a relative at 3 times the market cost. The room exploded with murmurs. The international guests had witnessed everything firsthand. The executive board was forced to act on the spot. Harrison Stone were fired immediately, and the company issued an official apology to Marcus for the years his talent had been buried. Then, Olivia made an announcement that Marcus had never even dared to dream of. Starting today, I appoint Marcus Green as our Director of International Relations. No one is more deserving. At that moment, every staff member in the restaurant stood up and erupted in applause. The young waiters who had often been looked down on now looked at Marcus with a new light in their eyes. He was no longer just a co-worker. He had become a living symbol, proof that talent, even when hidden, will eventually find the light. There was no turning back. Marcus understood it clearly. This was the moment that could carry him from the serving tray to the negotiation table, or throw him into the depths of failure. 6 months after that historic conference, Olivia Bennett's restaurant chain had undergone a complete transformation. The person leading that change was Marcus Green. As the Director of International Relations, Marcus not only managed diplomacy but also launched a program called Hidden Talents, designed to discover and uplift employees whose skills had been forgotten or overlooked. In just half a year, the results far exceeded expectations. 87 employees were identified with incredible skills, ranging from foreign languages and management to culinary design. Revenue from international guests increased by 45%, while the need for outsourced services dropped dramatically. The entire company atmosphere had changed. Staff no longer felt like just servers, they felt like part of something meaningful. And Harrison Stone, one was unemployed, the other, disgraced, had no place left in the industry. They had destroyed their own futures by trying to bury someone else's. Marcus, on the other hand, had become a guest speaker at universities, sharing insights on cuisine and diplomacy, a topic he had once dreamed of pursuing, but had thought was forever out of reach. During the company-wide talk before hundreds of employees, Marcus stood tall. His eyes carried pride, but his voice remained humble. Your value does not come from the uniform you wear. It comes from the talent you carry within. Our job is to open the door so that talent can finally be seen. The room erupted in applause, not just for the words, but because his life had proven every one of them to be true. And now, that message belongs to you, the one watching this video. If you believe there are still thousands of other Marcus Greens out there, share this story, leave a comment, tell me what you think about how unfairly opportunity and talent are divided. And do not forget to follow this channel so we can keep spreading this message. Talent exists everywhere, but opportunity must be created.